For more analysis on the statements on Syria coming from Washington, we go live to our D.C. studio, where I'm joined by Lawrence Freeman from the Executive Intelligence Review. So President Obama says he wants a political solution, but it seems that the U.S. draft resolutions on Syria are leaning toward a military solution. Which road do you think they'll end up taking?
Well, right now, the only thing that's kept us out of a war with Syria has been essentially the U.S. military and intelligence community have completely opposed any kind of military action. And the founder of our organization, Lyndon LaRouche, has been outspoken that any kind of military action by the U.S. would be a trigger to detonate a larger confrontation that could include nuclear war with Russia and China. So Obama himself is really not completely in charge. He's a very unstable personality, and events are being manipulated around him, which could lead him to take a very dangerous action. But so far, the U.S. military has prevented that from occurring.
Manipulated around him by whom?
Well, Obama is very close right now to the British policy. And the British system, their financial economic empire is collapsing, as you can see in Europe. And they want Russia and China to submit to their system and their control. And if they do not submit, the British powers would use the United States to launch a confrontation, and the line would be drawn around Syria and Iran. So the problem is not Syria and Iran. The problem is the largest system of conflict between the British and Americans and Russia and China at this point.
Well, the White House is currently pushing for a political transition and aiming to isolate the Assad regime. What tools do they have at their disposal, and what other states do you think could follow suit?
They really don't have any tools at their disposal. I mean, the situation inside Syria has been that many outside forces, including al-Qaeda, including forces from Libya that we supported, including forces from Iraq, have moved in, and the policy is to try to force a regime change in Syria and to force the Russians in particular to submit to that. And if the Russians don't submit to that, then you could have a confrontation. But there's no real intention by the Obama administration or the West for a constructive policy. I think Prime Minister Lavrov is coming to the United States and to Syria, and there are other elements that would like to resolve the situation. But the Obama faction right now is not looking for any real long-term solution.
Well, Senator John McCain was an early advocate of the NATO no-fly zone that started the intervention in Libya. Now he's calling for airstrikes in Syria. Do you think these statements will translate into any real influence on the administration's Syria stance?
Well, I think what Senator McCain is doing is very dangerous. Don't forget, the intervention into Libya was done under the so-called responsibility to protect, that allegedly there was going to be genocide going on in Libya. And so the U.S. and others forced through a military bombing campaign. This led to the overthrow of the regime and to the murder of President Gaddafi. Whatever you thought about him, he was in custody and he was murdered. And this came on orders from the British, the French, and Obama. So now the rest of the world is very nervous about any more regime change policies. Now, Senator McCain, in calling for such a policy, is really trying to egg on Obama and create a condition where the U.S. would take this kind of action. And if the U.S. does take this kind of action, the response by Russia and China will not be the same as it was in Libya. This is a totally different geometry, and it's extremely dangerous. It could bring us to war, which is why yesterday you may have been aware that the major military leaders in our country were quoted in an ad in the Washington Post saying, do not go ahead with this military campaign in the Gulf. And because they are correctly, as is Mr. LaRouche, very correctly afraid that this could lead to a larger confrontation.
All right, we have to leave it there. Lawrence Freeman from the Executive Intelligence Review magazine. Thanks for your time.